We see a man named Josh inside a university as he is rushing and packing his things. He takes all of his belongings and puts them in a box. Then he hurries out of the office and we see some other people acting just like him. Josh bids farewell to one of his colleagues, gets in the car, and drives off to his home. In the background, a news broadcast is played according to which there is a prediction of a solar storm and bad weather in many regions of the United States. Josh tries to call his wife Karen, but he is unable to reach them due to the signal issue. Meanwhile, we see Karen back at home with her son as both of them are discussing career opportunities for Matt. After this, Karen asks him to help her with the household chores. Then we see two young girls inside the house named Dana and Brianna, who are Karen and Josh's daughters. Brianna tells Dana to keep a secret as she is going to Seattle at night. However, Dana is not happy with her decision and stops her as there is bad weather and the power has been out in the region for days. Then she tells Brianna not to chase after a guy just because he says he loves her but says that she is old enough to make this decision. Meanwhile, on his way, Josh sees a strange truck parked on the road, and behind the truck, there are two strange men with guns and weapons. Josh finds it extremely terrifying and races away. As he reaches home, he tells everyone to get inside and informs them of a hurricane approaching. Soon, the hurricane arrives and takes everything in its grip, and all we hear is screams coming from the inside of the house as the strong winds jolt everything in their way. In the morning, as the family comes out to check on the weather, they see hundreds of dead fish lying on their lawn. Everyone is terrified of the sight as it seems like an impossible thing. Suddenly, a car arrives and we see Josh's police friend Earl inside. He asks them if they are doing okay after the storm last night, and Josh shows him the fish in his lawn. Then Earl tells Josh that he had hundreds of dead snakes inside his lawn, so Josh should be thankful that he only got fish. After this, he hands him a flyer of 3 missing students from his college. He tells him that one of these is his sister's son and they went camping last night, but nobody has heard from them since. He also shares the details of a green SUV they were driving with a number plate RVL 6768. During this, Karen comes to meet Earl and asks him about the strange guy sitting in his car. Earl tells her that he is just helping him out as he saw him wandering around earlier. During this, the strange guy starts talking and tells them that his brother was skinning his wife alive and the police shot him for this. This makes everyone suspicious, but Earl knocks it off and decides to leave. As everyone goes back inside the house, strong winds begin to blow, which brings a number of weird objects onto their lawn along with the back of the green SUV that Earl mentioned earlier. The family is having dinner peacefully when suddenly someone bangs on their door. Josh goes to check it out and finds Earl's nephew at the door. He tells Josh that he needs help, so Josh invites him in and offers him dinner. He begins eating viciously and everyone gets grossed out of his behavior. Seeing this, Matt tries to ask him to behave, but he growls at him and his pupils suddenly turn white. Then he attacks Matt and Karen, but Matt gets the gun just in time and shoots at him. Suddenly, an eerie spirit gets out of his body and leaves the house. This terrifies everyone and Karen decides to go to the nearest police station to get help. As she reaches the station, she finds it dark and empty. She begins to look around, and as soon as she goes near a cell, someone pulls her from inside and attacks her. During the struggle, Karen manages to get her hands on a shotgun and shoots at the man in the cell. Then she makes it back home, but another strange man gets to her in their lawn. Seeing this, Josh takes the gun and shoots at the guy and he escapes. After this, the family locks up the entire house and decides to stay inside until they figure things out. At night, Josh begins researching the strange spirit they saw earlier and finds a strange mark in a book. In the morning, Josh and Matt decide to clean the lawn while the girls are inside. Suddenly, someone breaks into the house and begins dragging Brianna out. As Brianna screams, the family tries to get to her, but the man flies into the air and takes Brianna with him. After this, the family decides to go after her. They load up a van with all the necessary things and follow her northeast. On their way, they make a stop at the gas station and find a strange man who offers to fill the gas. During this, he begins cleaning their front window, but instead it gets covered with blood. Then he takes out a human head and begins rubbing it on their window, throwing more blood. This terrifies everyone and they make an escape. The man begins shooting at them from behind. Suddenly, the fuel spills on the ground and catches fire, burning the man alive. Dana gets extremely terrified and begins to panic, but Karen calms her down. During this, they hear a radio broadcast about a place called Yamaka where there is food and shelter for survivors. The family decides to head to Yamaka and look for Brianna there. Meanwhile, we see Brianna as she wakes up in the middle of the jungle. She sees that the man who brought her here is lying beside her and he is injured. The man asks her who is she and why she has brought him here. Brianna is confused by his statements and tells him that he is the one who brought her here and tells him to stay away from her. The solar storm begins and we see chaos in the city as people are running away to save themselves. Then we see Brianna hiding under a bus. She gets out in a miserable state and begins looking around for help. During this, a woman calls her and tells her to get inside her car. Brianna is hesitant at first, but then she tells her she is headed to Seattle, so Brianna does not give it a second thought. Meanwhile, the family is traveling when they see another one of those crazy men chasing after a girl nearby. Karen immediately gets out of the van and follows after him with his gun. Seeing this, Josh follows with a shotgun. Karen shoots the guy, but he throws her to the ground and begins strangling her. During this, Josh arrives and shoots him in the head, causing a spirit to leave his body. Some people from other vehicles also step out and witness the scene. Josh and Karen come to realize that there are spirits lingering around them that can possess human bodies and make them do things. However, Dana still does not want to believe this and calls it a legend. Suddenly, they hear Brianna's voice as she manages to connect to her family for a short while due to the availability of signals. She informs her mother that she is going to Seattle with a woman who helped her. Karen tells her to get to the grandpa's house and they will meet her there. After this, the signals are lost and the call disconnects. It is revealed that Brianna and the woman with her have made a stop to wait for her friend Dell. She tells Brianna that her car does not have enough gas, so they might not be able to travel any further, which is why they are going to wait for Dell. Suddenly, they notice a vehicle parked near them, and when they go to investigate, they see Dell dead inside. Seeing this, the woman asks to go and get some fresh air, and Brianna begins to investigate the vehicle. Suddenly, she hears a gunshot and goes to check on the woman with her. She finds her dead inside one of the restrooms, as it seems like she has taken her own life. Brianna now decides to take matters into her own hands. She takes her gun and bag and gets back inside the car, but it does not start. Then she decides to continue her journey on foot. Meanwhile, we see the family has stopped at a place to get some rest. During this, a man from another vehicle named Vince comes to ask for help as he needs some gas. Karen agrees to help him, and it is revealed that his son Donnie and Matt know each other from school. While both of them are talking, something strange happens to Donnie and he goes numb for a while. When Matt asks him about it, he knocks it off and leaves. Suddenly, Karen gets a message from her sister Sally that she needs help. Karen decides to take Vince's car to go get her while he and his son Donnie can travel in their van. As Karen reaches Sally's place, she finds her getting shot at by other people because she messed up with their chickens. Karen gets mad at her for not minding her own business and gets her out of there. Then we see Brianna, who is tired from walking, so she decides to get some rest at a bench nearby. She tries to sleep, but suddenly someone comes there and throws her out of the bench. It's a girl named Tatiana, and she says that she was just making sure Brianna was not another maniac. She tells Brianna that she is going to see it all and asks her to join her. Brianna agrees to this as she knows she cannot survive this alone. They both talk about their personal lives on their way, and Tatiana gets to know that Brianna's phone is still working. She asks her to allow her to use the phone to call her boyfriend, but Brianna says that she is saving her battery, so she cannot let her use it. Meanwhile, the family makes another stop and Dana goes to use the bathroom. During this, Donnie comes to Matt and throws rugby at him. He then tries to attack Matt, but Matt dodges him and throws him down, which dislocates his shoulder. Then, Donnie gets up and begins eating from trash, and it confirms to Matt that he is a skinwalker, the one who is possessed by evil spirits. During this, Sally and Karen get back, and Sally notices Donnie's dislocated shoulder. She offers to help him and takes him inside the van. She asks Matt to hold him down for a while, but Matt says he does not want to do it. Seeing this, Karen helps Donnie, and to their surprise, it does not hurt Donnie at all, which is quite unusual. Then we see a huge solar storm hitting the earth, which fries all the electric components. Due to this, Vince's car stops working and he asks Karen and Josh for help. Meanwhile, Tatiana and Brianna get into a fight for Brianna's phone. Tatiana hits her, pushes her to the ground, and runs away with her phone. Brianna follows her with her gun and takes her phone back. Then she leaves Tatiana behind and continues her journey on her own. Then Vince asks Karen to let Donnie and him travel with him in their van. Matt tries to stop them, but Karen agrees. However, as soon as Donnie comes inside the van, he begins acting weirdly and runs out into the jungle. Vince goes after him and Matt follows behind with a gun. After a little chase, Matt catches him and confronts his demon, but as soon as he attacks Matt, Matt shoots him dead. During this, Vince and Karen reach the place and Vince blames Matt for the death of his son. After this, they hear an eerie screeching voice coming from the jungle and get scared. Then we see Brianna as she finds a horse in a nearby barn. She goes to him and tries to calm him down, but suddenly a giant winged creature comes and takes the horse with him. This terrified Brianna as she had never seen anything like this. Karen wakes up to find Josh and everyone else in the van gone. She goes out and sees them investigating a couple of cars ahead of them with no one inside. It's like everyone has just vanished. After this, they reach Grandpa's house and find him gone too. While they are looking around the house, Sally decides to take care of the vegetable garden to grow their own food if they are going to live here. She asks Dana to help her, but Dana gets distracted by the sound of her grandpa's dog. She goes to free the dog, but it instead attacks her and bites her arm. The dog is rabid, so everyone decides to get Dana to a clinic nearby. However, Matt decides to stay back at the house in case Brianna comes there. When they get to a medical store, they find the medicine and decide to get back, but suddenly someone comes there. Karen hides behind a pillar and pushes the man down. They discover that it's Dr. Rollins and they know each other. They tell the doctor about Dana's condition and he offers to help them. Dr. Rollins helps Dana get injected with the medicine and leaves to help others. Meanwhile, Matt also hears a strange noise coming from the basement. He takes his shotgun and goes to investigate, only to find a naked woman there. She pleads for help and Matt offers his protection to her. She tells him that her husband is coming to get her, but Matt assures her that she is safe here. Then we see Brianna, who sees a group of men in the forest and asks them for some food. However, the men have bad intentions for her, so she takes out her gun and shoots one of them. Suddenly, two young siblings named Mary and Devin come there in their Jeep and offer their help to Brianna. Seeing this her way out of there, Brianna joins them and goes to their home. After this, the family goes to a utility store to get some supplies and finds 2 full boxes of tetracycline there. As they are leaving, Josh also finds an old bottle of scotch and some cyanide and he takes them with him. Suddenly, they hear some other armed people entering the store. They decide to leave, but the armed men warn them and ask them to hand over the tetracycline. This leads to a fight between the 2 groups until they get their hands on Dana and threaten the family. Now, Josh comes up with a plan and decides to go to them alone. As he goes inside the store, he hands over the bag of tetracycline to the group, but before that, he asks them to let her daughter go or else he is going to blow up the place with some explosives in the other bag. Seeing this, the men allow Dana to go and Josh hands over the medicine, but then he offers them some shots from the old bottle of scotch he found earlier. The group is delighted and agrees to take the shots. After a while, their mouths begin foaming and they gasp for air but die. It is revealed that Josh mixed cyanide in the bottle. Dana is terrified to see this, but Josh tells her that this is a way of survival. Meanwhile, Matt hears someone banging on the door and it is the girl's husband who has come to get her. Matt fights with him and shoots him multiple times. This causes the man to burst like a water balloon and Matt gets all wet. He asks the girl who she is and what just happened to her husband. The girl takes him to his grandpa's room and takes a strange emblem from his table. She claims that it is hers and she has come to get it back. Then she tells Matt that his grandpa always liked to possess things and Matt asks if she knew his grandpa. Then she thanks Matt for protecting her and tries to be intimate with him, but Matt stops her. This impresses her and she asks Matt to turn around and close his eyes. When Matt turns around, she says she is going to give him what he wants the most in the world, a demonic voice, and vanishes. Matt gets confused but decides to wait for Brianna. Meanwhile, Brianna reaches Mary and Devin's home, but Mary does not like her behavior as she curses a lot. However, Devin seems like he is already attracted to her. He is kind to Brianna and gets her food and all the things she needs. Then she asks him to drive him to her grandpa's house, but suddenly they hear the creature from before. They decide to hide inside the barn and see the winged creature. Everyone blames Brianna and thinks that she brought the curse with her. When they think the creature is gone, they head out of the barn to check it out, but suddenly the creature comes back and Brianna tells everyone to lie on the ground and stay still. Everyone follows her and the creature does not touch them. In the morning, a strange man who seems to be their leader, Reverend Brother, comes there and everyone tells him about Brianna and how she can control a creature. Devin tries to protect Brianna, calling it nonsense, but Reverend says he will meet her later. Meanwhile, Brianna manages to contact Matt and shares her address with him. Then, Josh comes to pick Matt and informs them about Brianna's location and they decide to go get her. Devin and Brianna talk about how everyone around does not like her, but Devin assures her that he likes her. During this, a woman arrives and tells Devin to do some work and blames Brianna for tempting Devin toward her. She takes Brianna to a room and locks her there until Reverend calls to her. Inside the room, Brianna decides to take a bath while Devin spies on her from the window. Meanwhile, the family notices some bodies on the road and Sally goes to investigate. As she checks one of the bodies, a parasite crawls out and gets inside Sally's body. So they decide to go over the bodies instead of touching them and removing them from the way. As they go ahead, they find a locked community where infected people are being kept, but since it's the shortest way to reach Brianna, Karen decides to break the fence using the van. This causes the van to break down and they decide to stay low and repair it inside a building. During this, Sally develops some kind of skin infection, so Karen asks Matt and Dana to go and find Dr. Rollins. She believes that she must be with the infected community, so they will definitely find him there. As Matt and Dana head out, Matt teaches her how to use the gun and be courageous to survive. Meanwhile, Brianna meets Reverend and he asks to be left alone with her for a while. When he is alone with Brianna, he comes in his demon form and attacks her. Brianna begins screaming and a woman comes inside. Seeing the woman, Reverend blames Brianna for being the demon and demands to lock her inside the barn until her fate is decided. Brianna is now taken to the barn and locked up. Meanwhile, Matt and Dana come across some infected people and ask them about Dr. Rollins. These people ask Matt to come close, and when he comes near the fence, they catch him. Matt asks Dana to take the gun and shoot at them. Dana is hesitant at first, but then she shoots at them and they let go of Matt. During this, some armed men arrive in a vehicle and ask Matt and Dana to stand down. They check them for the disease, and after their satisfaction, they ask them about their family. Dana tells them about their auntie being sick, and the man asks them to take them to their family. Now, Matt and Dana are taken to see their family. When they arrive at the building, Karen hides with the gun while others stand down in front of these armed men. Karen recognizes the man from her training unit, and the man recognizes her too. This eases the tension between them, and they decide to take them to Dr. Rollins. They inform him about the situation with their auntie Sally, and Dr. Rollins decides to go and help them. When he inspects Sally, he catches the parasite crawling under her skin and takes it out. The parasite multiplies and they have no choice but to trap them inside. During this, the infected people from the community arrive and gather outside the building. Seeing this, Dr. Rollins distracts them and allows Karen and her family to escape. When they are escaping, Sally decides to stay behind and take Dr. Rollins' place as he is killed by the infected people. She bids farewell to Karen and joins the group of Dr. Rollins' armed men. Meanwhile, Devin visits Brianna and asks her if she is doing okay inside the barn. Brianna talks to him for a while and tells him about Reverend being the real demon. After this, Brianna asks him to get her the gun. At first, Devin does not believe her, but then he notices Reverend acting weird and believes Brianna. He gives her gun back to her and helps her escape the barn. After this, Reverend reaches the barn and finds Brianna gone. He gets mad and follows her scent. They run into the forest, but Reverend follows them. On their way, Devin confesses his love for Brianna and they share an intimate moment together. After this, they begin walking towards the road where Brianna sees her family approaching in their van. Everyone is delighted to finally see each other, but suddenly Reverend gets there and attacks Brianna. Devin tries to help her, but Reverend is very strong and throws Devin away. Then Brianna takes her gun out and shoots Reverend. After this, the demon possessing him leaves his body. During this, Matt, Josh, and others also arrive to help Brianna. The family is united and Brianna takes a sigh of relief. She introduces Devin to everyone and tells them that he saved her life. After this, the family takes Devin inside the van and they decide to head to the next destination, a safe place to stay and hide while they figure things out. However, as they are leaving, suddenly a vehicle armed with weapons and men arrives and begins shooting at them. Everyone gets down to save themselves while Josh takes charge of the van and drives them safely. It is not revealed who these shooters are and why are they following the family, but at the moment their only motive is to kill everyone in the van.